It is almost 1 a.m. here at the Shoe. Ohio Stadium was the host site of the first round of the college football playoff between Ohio State and Tennessee. Unfortunately, by the game's end, Tennessee did not come anywhere close to being on top. 42-17 was the final. I'm Trevor McGee, joined alongside Jack Church as we go ahead and recap whatever that was that we just happened to watch 60 minutes of. Jack, I want to ask what went wrong, but I think I need to be more specific. What exactly went wrong offensively, defensively, for Tennessee to go down 21-0 in that first quarter?
Well, I think the first big mistake was putting Jeremiah Smith in one-on-one coverages. I remember down at that end zone in that back left corner, Jeremiah Smith made two huge catches in one-on-one coverage, first with Ricky Gibson and then with Jermod McCoy in coverage. And those are Tennessee's best cornerbacks by far. But Ohio State's wide receiver core is so good that you can't go into those one-on-one matchups and expect them to win all the time. The best defensive play Tennessee made was having Will Brooks over the top to give them that help when he got that interception off Will Howard, and that was the play that really gave Tennessee some semblance of momentum. But other than that, Tennessee's defense pretty much had nothing for Ohio State the entire game.
Absolutely. You talked about Will Howard there. He was almost as perfect as it gets. That interception was not his fault. It was a tip ball that Will Brooks made a really athletic play to tiptoe in the end zone. Really iffy. It was really close, and they ended up giving it to him. But other than that, he threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. What did you see from Will Howard?
I mean, he just had all the time in the world. Another problem for the Tennessee defense this game was they weren't able to get penetration. The big storyline coming into this game was, how was Tennessee going to be able to take advantage of Ohio State's weak offensive line? And the answer was they weren't. Tennessee basically got nothing going. They got 1 sack on that first drive, but it was overturned due to a face mask call, and then basically went off from there. Will Howard had tons of time. He was able to move in the pocket. He was able to make 1 or 2 athletic plays with his legs to extend plays, even get a first down on the ground. And there was just no unity from this Tennessee defense. It was either you're letting Will Howard scramble around, you're letting Jeremiah Smith or Igbokwe go one-on-one, or you're letting them hand it off and missing open field tackles for them to get 12 yards and a first down.
Yeah, absolutely. On the defensive side, once again, Tennessee, they let a lot of throws in the flat. Will Howard knew his checkdowns. He knew how to get it down the field. And Tennessee, a lot of zone coverages and a lot of one-on-ones as well that they were really struggling with. On the ground, Travion Henderson led the way, I believe, with 10 rushes for 80 yards. So essentially, you took the running backs out of the game until it was late and you kind of run the clock. But on the offensive side for Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, his stats look terrible, but personally, I think it was the lack of help from the rest of his team. What did you see?
Yeah, when you have Dylan Sampson injured, when you have Squirrel White injured, Dante Thornton injured, and then you have 2 wide receivers who are in the portal and not even available for this game, there was just a lot that went wrong for the Tennessee offense. And Nico basically had to be the team's leading rusher, which is something that we haven't seen him do all season, and something he tried to do effectively tonight, but it just ended up not working.
Definitely. Defensively, Tennessee allowed over 400 yards, only put together 200 yards on offense themselves, but a lot of that came on that final drive. They scored a touchdown. They ran it in to make the score a little more respectable. Coming into this, a lot of people kind of just assumed that this was going to be probably the best game of the playoff. You know, you had College Game Day there. You had it primetime slot Saturday night. A lot of hype surrounding it because it was kind of a toss-up. And Ryan Day came out and proved everybody wrong in his inability to win games. And then on the other side, you have Josh Heupel, who just suffered another big loss to a top 10 team, as Tennessee has not won a top 10 road game since 2006.
That's the big storyline going into next season. Next season, Tennessee has to travel to, Starkville, but also to Gainesville and to Tuscaloosa. And those are games that Tennessee's going to have to win if they want to be back in a spot like this. When you have a schedule like Tennessee does, where your marquee out-of-conference game, if you want to call it that, is a neutral site game against a Syracuse team that, had a good season this year, but is very much unknown for next year. 10-2 is probably going to mean another first-round road game in the playoff, and that's something that Tennessee has not proven they can handle yet. And with so many pieces leaving, I don't even know if 10-2 is realistic for Tennessee next year.
Yeah, it'll be a really tough one because you bring a lot of guys back. You have Nico still at quarterback. Defensively, you have your top 2 corners, Jermod McCoy, Ricky Gibson, Boo Carter even. They're all underclassmen right now. You won't have your running back, but you will have Peyton Lewis, who stepped up big time today in a really unfortunate situation. But it's definitely going to be a little bit of a different look, and you really have to wonder going into next year. But obviously, that road starts now. You've got to start thinking about next year. You mentioned it earlier. One last point. Tennessee did have a chance in this game. It was 21-10 late in the second quarter. Tennessee deferred on the opening toss. They got the ball to start the second half, and then they proceeded to go 3 and out. They could have made it a one-score game. They had the momentum, and that's where things really went wrong.
And then Ohio State scored the next possession. Tennessee, 4th and 4 at the 43-yard line, I want to say. That's an opportunity where in the past we've seen Josh Heupel be aggressive, go for it. When you're down 18 in that situation, you really have nothing to lose. I was really surprised to see Heupel send out Jackson Ross in that situation, especially when Jackson Ross hadn't been having the best day up until that point.
Of course, always got to put the special team shout out in there, but wasn't enough to really shout him out. So
Max Gilbert did his job.
It was enough to throw it in there, and that is all we have, aside from the fact that the crowd was as insane split as we kind of expected. Tennessee fans showed up, and unfortunately the team did not. 42-17 as Tennessee ends their 2024 season here in Ohio. We attended all 13 games, provided coverage, and we will have some more tonight. Good night, everybody.